This year's graduates are entering a booming job market with more open jobs than unemployed workers. That sounds good, right? In our continuing series, Work in Progress, we partnered with LinkedIn to take a close look at issues affecting the workforce. LinkedIn CEO, that's Jeff Weiner, recently gave the commencement address at his alma mater. That's a Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. His message was, be compassionate.
I vowed that as long as I'd be responsible for managing other people, I would aspire to manage compassionately. And I can tell you with absolute conviction that managing compassionately is not just a better way to build a team, it's a better way to build a company.
Boy, Jeff Weiner, welcome back to the table.
Yeah, great to have you here.
You said that that was the best advice that you would give your 22-year-old self, and that struck me because with all your knowledge, experience, and success, that was it, be compassionate. I think that that advice should go regardless of whether you're 22. People of all ages need to hear this message. And why was compassion the best advice for you?
I think as a younger executive, I go back 10 or 15 years, I was expecting people to do things the way I did. Which is kind of human nature. You know, we're all egocentric and we all see the world through our own lens. And if you really want to lift people up and inspire them and help them to be their best, I think it requires thinking about things through their perspective and understanding their objectives, their hopes, their dreams, their fears, and working with them and doing everything within your power to set them up to be successful. And when you do that,
yeah. Go ahead. When you do that,
you're not only setting them up to be successful, you're setting the team up to be successful, you're setting the company up to be more successful, you're setting yourself up to be successful.
You said it's hard to do, Jeff.
It's, I find, incredibly difficult to do. In that clip you showed, one of the key words was aspire. I aspire to manage compassionately because it can be so difficult to get out of your own head and be a spectator to your own thoughts, especially when you become emotional.
Good, successful companies have core values that everybody understands. How did you put that value into practice?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's one thing to codify your values, and I think increasingly companies are thinking through what their first principles are. It's another to actually walk the walk. And so for us at LinkedIn, it starts with the recruiting process and not lowering or compromising the bar in terms of the importance of our values. That continues on with onboarding, and the first day someone sets foot within the company, we're going to start to help educate them on what's most important to us, and not only what we're trying to accomplish, but how we're trying to accomplish it, which I think is increasingly important. We do learning and development around our culture and values. We evaluate performance around culture and values.
What about taking it from the other end of the telescope? Say I work for somebody who shows none of those things. Yeah. Should I leave?
I think it depends on the person. I think it depends on the situation. I think it depends on the company. I don't think there's any cookie cutter model for this. And to be frank, there's companies and there's leaders who've had extraordinary success with not managing compassionately.
You also talked in your speech about the growing economic divide and tribalism in the job market. Yeah. What do you mean by that, and how that really is changing the world we live in today?
Yeah, two different components of this, and why I believe that compassion will grow in its importance. One is widening socioeconomic stratification. The gap between the haves and the have-nots here in the States is hovering near historical highs. And when you have a lot of wealth concentrated amongst a smaller group of people, and you have broad swaths and segments of the population that don't feel like they have equal access to economic opportunity no matter how hard they're working, it's bad for the economy because they can't afford products and services. It's bad for society because they feel disenfranchised.
So interesting to see that LinkedIn's data shows the #1 skill lacking among workers is interpersonal or soft skills. Yeah. How's that impacting the job market?
So it's interesting because a lot of people are fixated on technology, and rightfully so. It's an increasingly important part of most companies and how they do business. But what we found when we did our skills gap analytical work is that interpersonal skills, the gap there is roughly 3 times higher than software engineering in the United States. When we talk about interpersonal skills, we're talking about skills that anyone can develop and acquire, talking about communication, reasoning, team coordination, jobs in customer service, sales development, business development, education, all require those kinds of skills.
You say anyone can acquire them, but where do they go acquire them? If you're somebody looking in the job market, and given the shortages in the job market now, how long is it going to take somebody to, or take the job market to catch up with the jobs that are needed right now?
Yeah, so thankfully, again, it's not just these technical skills that could require longer periods of time to develop. These kinds of interpersonal skills you can pick up in classes that are online increasingly, and it's wonderful to see that there's a rise in the amount of courses being offered and the number of providers who are increasingly thinking about where the jobs are and will be and the skills required to obtain those jobs.
But we're also hearing there's a surplus of jobs, but employers are having trouble filling them.
Yeah,
You have
according
a
to
quick
McKinsey-
answer to that? Yeah.
According to McKinsey, roughly 40% of employers in the United States are having trouble identifying prospects with the skills they need for the jobs that are already available. So these jobs increasingly exist. As a matter of fact, there's nearly 7 million, roughly 6.7 million available jobs in the country, and there's 6.4 million people who are unemployed. So we all need to do a better job of aligning the supply and the demand.
And if you're on LinkedIn, that can help you find a job.
We would hope so.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Jeff Weiner.
That LinkedIn is pretty good, Norah.
It is very good. It's very good. Jeff Weiner, thank you so much. Always
for
good to
having
have
me.
you here,
Thank
and
you.
great graduation speech, too.
Thank you.
Yes.